think to view this as a privacy versus security debate is to misunderstand this particular debate. It's a more security versus less security debate. And by using strong encryption, you both secure the privacy of the data, and for all of the reasons Michael Chertoff set off, you also improve security across the board for vulnerable data of corporations, governments, and individuals themselves.
John Yoo, you want to respond?
Yeah, I would say, again, the touchstone is reasonableness. I don't see where the Constitution says it's up to Apple to decide what's reasonable. It's up to us, the American people, through our government, to decide what that reasonable balance is between privacy and gathering the information to try to increase the security of our country. And I think it's I still think I hear the argument that Stuart was arguing against, the idea that tech companies are somehow different, that they can willingly and intentionally design their systems to make it impossible for them to comply with these legal requests for information. I think that everyone should be potentially subject, and that's why we have a government, and that's why we have courts. I would much rather have a judge in Washington, D.C., or Congress pass legislation making that balance rather than letting Apple or Facebook or Google decide, or Samsung in Korea decide what our balance between security and privacy ought to be.
But your opponent, Catherine Crump, is saying it's the privacy security issue is not the real issue. She's saying that security versus more security. And her argument is actually for even greater security, which I think her implication is it would make it even more difficult for the government to get access.
That's possible. Let me first say it's possible that a consequence of more encryption might actually be better security for our country. I just don't see why Apple gets to decide that for the United States. I think if that's really a consequence of increasing encryption, then our government, who we elect and send to Washington, should make that call. If there really is anything that our government can do to increase national security with no cost to anyone, then it should do it and should have done it after 9/11. The trade-offs exist in everything. There's no kind of policy where you can have more of all the good stuff and no costs, any of the bad stuff. Everything is a trade-off. My only question is who conducts the balance? It shouldn't be tech companies.